Trying to go live on Instagram.
Let's say 3 dependent women.
There it goes. And we are live both on Instagram and YouTube.
Excellent. We need an intro.
Did I say 3? Yes, we do need an intro. Working on that.
Okay. That's all right. We are live.
We
do it
we
fucking
are
live.
live.
Oh, snap dizzle. Well, there's swear words in the first X, Y, and Z seconds. So
there we go.
I guess we're demonetized now.
Yes. Darn, there goes all of my money. So welcome to the Brothers Two of Them podcast. Today we are going to be discussing financial dependency, but from like women to men and men to women. I suppose that would also be something that we could talk about. But generally, we are going to be discussing some stuff about that. But first of all, my name is Sam. I am the owner of Bungalows for Bachelors. And if you want to learn about construction, then you ought to go check it out. I'll probably throw a link in the description after this is done streaming. I will do that. I will definitely do that. So yeah, check it out. Otherwise, this is my brother.
Aloha. I'm Will. You should actually, so while I'm doing my little intro, you should copy your link and throw it up in the chat. If there happens to be anyone who hops in here while we are going live, they can at least follow along in there. And then when you start talking next, I'll throw my links in the chats. But hello, everybody. I am Will Stevenson. I am a 30-year-old Marine veteran who does ironworking and also cryptocurrency podcasts. You can find me at Linktree /Will Stevenson. I think it's linktr.ee in the very beginning. But if you, I'll throw up the link here once Sam starts chatting. But yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll. Let's get this show on the road.
Perfect. I think here comes my link to the Bungalows for Bachelors YouTube channel. From there, you can see all kinds of cool stuff. I got some free classes I put in there. If you want to join my school server, you can have access to way more information and some weekly Zoom calls. That would be something to do. So there goes that link. And the topic for today is going to be financial dependency from women to men, specifically. So reading the book, The Millionaire Next Door, there was a section brought up discussing, what is a type A woman and what is a type B woman. And the type A woman, if I don't quote me on this, I might have mixed up the two, but type A woman being the go-getter, strong, independent, I'm going to conquer the world, I am financially savvy, all of these like things that are associated with this particular type of woman. And a type B woman being sort of the opposite of that, which is they're going to be financially not savvy. They were gifted a lot of money when they were kids. They never really learned how to use money, never learned how to work with money. They're very dependent. And by association, they are being dependent. They're going to be dependent for the rest of their lives unless they change types on a man to provide financially for them or their family or their mother and father. So those are the two types that are laid out in the book. And the thing that came to mind for myself was that it was a little bit unfair that not unfair, but it seemed to me that there were more types than that, and that it would be, Will doesn't have access. I'm going to post a link for Will for his Linktree. Something just turned off. Did my headset just turn off? That's really technical issues here. Randomly does that sometimes. Okay. I've got audio again. So, yeah. So, types of women, type A, type B. Is there type C? Is there type D? Like, what's preferential of the types? What are so, is it the first general question? Will, I'll throw it off to you. Is it more optimal to have a type A or type B woman? Why or why not?
Man, I just got my headset replugged back in. You had said it out. I presume that you gave an intro about what was in the book. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so basically type A woman, go getter, type B woman, submissive, doesn't know anything about money.
Yeah.
Which one's optimal and why?
Oh, okay. That's not a okay, there's the question. All right. That's just background information. Which one is optimal and why? So that depends. So optimal
Also,
is
your audio is a little scratchy. I don't know if you can hear that.
goodness gracious. Okay. So yeah, it's got my microphone
It's coming
as
through your headset, but it sounds like there's like hair in your mouth.
That's also not optimal. Echo
While you're talking, I'll
reduce
post your link.
noise. How does that sound? Test. Any better? Any
That's
worse?
a little bit better. Seems a little bit better.
Okay. Is it optimal or suboptimal?
We can certainly hear you. It's not optimal.
Okay. Let's try. I'm gonna try this.
The old-fashioned power restart. We'll see if it works.
How about now?
I'm posting the link. I can hear you. Oh, and I think it's cleaner.
Is it better? Okay.
Slightly.
Might have been a okay. Still suboptimal.
It's like 60% better than it was, so it's much more close to optimal.
Okay. Well, let me try.
I would say go for it.
Okay, go for it. All right, sweet.
Yep.
Well, apologies for the folks at home. I am undergoing some sneaky headset issues. We're just gonna power through it. The question was, is it more optimal to be a type A woman or a type B woman? And I would say that is it's it's a loaded question because it depends on the subjectivity of the person who is like who the question is being asked to. So I could say like, is it better to have a hammer or have a glass of water? And it depends on if you're trying to build a house or if you're, dying of thirst in the desert. So with these two types of women, they're essentially I see it as like not to make women mechanical, but I would see these two different paths as essentially different tools by which one can accomplish goals, whatever those goals might be. If you're a woman who's concerned with making lots of money and being a go-getter, then type A might be for you. And if you're a woman who wants to raise a family in the traditional sense, then the type B might be the one for you. Or if you want to find a man or whatever. Like there's this running joke that all the boss babes out there are going to end up being like cat ladies or whatever when they get up into their 40s and 50s, and they're not going to be able to like settle down, start a family, do things. And that's like if that's what a person wants to be, then by all means go for it. But or if like a person wants to be a mom, then one should aim for that. But the real question, or maybe not the real question, but a good way for women to figure out which they want to be is to ask themselves like, what is the goal that I want out of life as a whole? Like, do I want to have lots of money, or do I want to have a family? Oftentimes having both is not necessarily possible, or it's only possible for a very small percentage of people. And like there's a cost and there's a benefit to each thing. It's like it's very unlikely that I will be a NASCAR racer and an astronaut. I have to pick one. Like I might not
Right.
necessarily be a like a guy who is a excellent plumber and also like an astrophysicist. I mean, it's possible, but like there's only so many things that we can accomplish in the 30,000 days that we have of life on this earth, right? So, um, the first thing that people need to do is they need to come to terms with what they want, and then they also have to come to terms with what is reality. If I spend my entire life living as if the sky is green, then it makes no difference because it's just a pigment, it's just a color in the air. But if I spend my entire life thinking that or like living under the auspices that iron is as soft as pillows, then I'm not going to interact with reality in like a healthy manner because I won't be in touch with what is real and what is true. So what we try and do on this podcast is we try and explore like what is reality? How good are we at measuring reality? And how best can we manipulate like our skills and our observations and the things that we learn and the things that we see and the things that we do in order to achieve the goals that we have. Now, me personally, I am of the I'm of the inclination to be more receptive to type B women. simply because of the type of person that I am. There's other men out there that would, I don't know, probably want type A. But if we were to typecast all men that exist in the universe, right, or in the world, and we were to typecast all women that exist inside of the world, and then we cross-reference them with which ones are attracted to which types of the other, like I'm going to have a larger pool of women to select from if I choose women that are in the middle of the bell curve as opposed to the women that are on the far left and the far right side. So it
Right.
behooves me to know what type of women are on the far left and the far right side of the bell curve and what type of women are in the middle of the bell curve. And then it also behooves me to know, what do they want? What are the things that attracts them? What are the things that they say that they like? What are the things that they positively like reinforce with their behaviors as far as like things that they like? Like a person could say, I like, jellyfish, and then they go to the beach and they play with starfish all day, and they're like always posting on the internet, oh man, jellyfish are the coolest thing ever. And then like they see a jellyfish in real life, and they get the ick, and then they go and they play with the starfish and they have fun with starfish, and it's all fun and fantastic and everything. So like there has to like congruence and ability to observe things, and the ability to listen to both the words and observe the actions of people and determine like which words are worth listening to, which actions are worth observing, yada 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 yada. I'm kind of going on a bit of a monologue here, but to
Sure.
answer your
So
question,
yeah,
I
go ahead.
like B, and most men probably like B.
Now let's differentiate a little bit here because it did list it out as like an A and a B, as in like they're totally separate. And of course, like you mentioned, with any normal uh, distribution of anything, there's going to be a high end, or not a high end, but there's going to be one side of the spectrum and there's going to be the other side of the spectrum, right? So type A being all these like go-getter women that are just
Yep.
super masculine and they're just, knocking out all kinds of problems and lawyers and all those things.
Yep.
And there's the type B at the other end of the spectrum, right? There's going to be a large distribution and there's going to be a large number of women that are a mix of these two things.
Hmm.
So what I would say is, from a man's perspective, you had mentioned that a majority of men are most likely going to want closer to a type B personality. So what traits from type A, if there's going to be a blend, if you were a
Mm.
woman looking to, well, what if I'm not a type B, but like what traits from type A, what traits from type B can I combine to increase my opportunities of like being with a man and him positively interacting with me and us being able to have a great long-term relationship. So what aspects of that type A personality, like, because it sort of depends on how you come at it. Because if you come at it from the perspective of man's going to manage his own money, he's got his life figured out, he's got his money figured out. If all those things are happening, it's like, okay, well then it doesn't really matter necessarily if the woman knows anything about financial responsibility. But on the same token, it kind of does, because if she's going to be in any kind of spending role,
Hmm.
then she does. Because if like it talks about in the book, if you've got someone who understands principles of wealth building and saving money and not consuming, and you've got someone who loves to consume, they're not going to be able to build wealth together. So, what traits of the type A being knowing a lot about money would you might that would, what traits about that side do you think might be positive that should be applied to a type B woman that would make her more attractive, or at least not necessarily more physically attractive, but like a better like, oh, you know what, like I would invest in this girl long term kind of a thing.
Yeah. What type of traits would I want in a woman who's mostly type B? What type A traits? I think the
Mhm.
Herc's got it pretty good here. Shout out to Herc in the comments. Good buddy of mine from the DGen Roundtable, and many other things in the crypto sphere. But if she fights me on everything, makes my life difficult, it's a hard pass. If she respects you, she'll defer to your lead. So the money issue won't be an issue. Um, so I agree with you, Herc, entirely. So like there's if I'm going to be a good person in I'll bring up like military example, right? So I used to be in the Marine Corps. There's a different role that you have to play as a private, as a lance corporal, as a corporal, and as a sergeant, right? If you are a corporal, you have to listen to what the sergeants instruct you to do, and you have to then instruct the lance corporals. So you have to play both a follower role and a leader role. When you're a sergeant, you have to listen to, the staff sergeants and the gunnies and the officers and all those things. So like there's a hierarchy of leadership traits and like followership traits. And the lower you are on the totem pole, the more followership traits you have, or you need to like be employing with like minimal amounts of leadership. And then the higher up the ladder you climb, the more leadership type decisions you have to make. So my easy answer to this is, uh if the woman, if like as a man, you have to have what we would call the commander's intent, which is like, hey, like if I'm the captain of a company, right? If I'm the commanding officer, then I gather all the staff NCOs and the officers. I tell them like what my large scale plan is, right? And they develop their own little miniature plans off of that, but they're following my intention. You know what I mean? So like I'd say like, hey, this is the sort of goal that we want to accomplish. However, we get to that point, like the specific details, those will be like if he wants to like micromanage everything for some particular reason, then that's his prerogative. But if he wants to like give sort of like, hey, this is the general intent of what I want done, like take the steps necessary from like your own expertise to get that goal accomplished. But I think that a woman who understands a man's commander's intent is probably like that's probably well like from a leadership followership perspective, um understanding commander's intent and being able to make good decisions in line with that sort of thing is what I would personally want the girl to have. If it's like any sort of, if she's having any sort of like what's the word, like alpha type decision making, assertive and aggressive like personality traits, I would want those to be in line with what my intentions for the relationship, intentions for the money, like what my goals are. So I would like, if she's going to have these assertive and aggressive traits, then I need to be like absolutely clear in like what my expectations are and what my boundaries are and what my goals are for like the finances in the relationship. Are we talking, we're talking specifically about finances in this
Yeah,
particular?
typically. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So does that sort of kind of make sense where I'm going with all this?
Yes. Yeah. So it seems like you're coming at it from the perspective of like, it's not so black and white. It's like I'm a man, I control all the money, and you don't make any money decisions. It's like, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with a woman having that sort of not not dominant presence, but like
Yeah.
being willing to commit to like hard decisions and things
Hmm.
like that, and make those kinds of decisions and things. Um, and that's fitting inside of your frame and how like the general direction you want to move. So it's not necessarily like a bad thing that a woman can have that kind of energy, if you want to call it, um, as long as it's working towards the same goal that you have.
Hmm.
Did I summarize that
Yeah, that's well
well?
summarized. So that would be
Okay.
the main one that I would want. If she's going to have assertive tendencies, I want them to be in line with what my goals are. If I have to like fight or butt heads with a chick over like what I want done, then it's like it's a bad sales scenario. It's a bad scenario, but it's like it's not effective, when you have two
Hmm.
people fighting over the large scale picture. Like I don't necessarily like the further down the hierarchy of like the decisions go, the less I care about like the individual like disagreements that they have, but the
Hmm.
higher up that we go, the more tenuous the disagreement becomes as far as like having a positive relationship and doing all that sort of stuff.
Got it. Herc had a good question here, but do women want to make tough decisions? Most women I've found want someone to handle all the tough decisions.
Yeah, absolutely right. And this goes like in general for dating. Like when you're dating a chick, don't ask her where she wants to go for dinner. Like from a decision making perspective. If you're trying to gather information to figure out what she likes, then yeah, you can dig around surreptitiously for clues, right? But at the end of the day, women don't want to make like small decisions or big decisions, just as like a general rule of thumb, treat this with like nuance and take a grain of salt to it. Like women want to more or less be led. They just want to go along for the ride and have fun. And they don't like they want to be able to trust a guy to make the tough choices. And I mean, even if it's like simple choices and difficult choices, the better you are at making simple decisions, the more confidence she will have in you when it comes time to make difficult decisions, if that makes sense. So yeah, that like
Yes,
girls.
absolutely. So go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like they if they see that you're like assertive and confident in your simple decisions, then they're gonna extrapolate that out to tough decisions. Like exactly what Herc is saying, like that women don't want to make those. So go ahead with your point, whatever it might.
Right. I was just gonna sort of agree that those individual small decisions are they build that foundation where they can see sort of inside into your mindset and how you can be confronted with a choice in something
Yeah.
and be like, okay, well, I could do this, I could do this. Here's the potential things that could happen. Here's the potential things that could happen. I'm going to make the decision. Boom, I'm going to commit to it. And yeah, when that's scaled up into bigger things, and then yeah, it's going to make sense when you commit to something bigger. They're going to understand that, oh, well, he's probably thought that through too.
Hmm. I agree.
And the Herc had here.
This is excellent. Thank you, Herc.
Yes, there's a reason most women did not want to go back to work after lockdowns ended.
They will also test your resolve by trying to change the decision in some way, i.e., shit tests. I think that Herc has read some of the same reference material as we have. Big shout out
That's a
to
strong possibility.
Big shout out to The Rational Male. Make sure you guys read his book. I don't know if anyone has a barcode scanner, but go find, like, shout out to Rollo Tomasi, author of The Rational Male. Read his book, look at his work, take what you like from it, ignore the stuff you don't like. Information is important. The more
And he's
information you
also
have,
got it on Audible, so you
oh,
can listen to
yes.
it at 2 times speed.
Yeah, listen to it for sure.
Save yourself the time.
Hell yeah.
Excellent.
There were some
So
other things that we had chatted about. Yeah, I guess you're already transitioning. Go ahead.
yeah, I'm trying to. um,
Oh, Bishop
uh,
Style and Mystery. Oh, damn! Shout out to Mystery, Eric. Well, I'm not gonna dox him. He's already doxed himself, but yeah, big shout out to Mystery, like pioneering the world of like of the pickup artistry and all that stuff. I definitely agree with a lot of the manosphere that the foundation needs to be changed as opposed to just like mimicking successful courses of action that a lot of like pickup artistry teaches. Um, but like men need to like develop the frame, develop the money that muscles the game, all like the everything all encompassing. It's all one big giant picture, but game is like one of the most crucial parts of the whole thing. And Mystery was definitely a pioneer in that respect. Shout out to Richard Hart too. I only just recently learned that he worked with Mystery and Wem and man, all those guys. The early 2000s.
I was still learning my addition at that
Yep.
time.
I was middle school or something, you know. I should have been buying houses in 2004 rather than chilling in 4th grade or whatever the heck
Right,
as the meme
right.
goes. Yeah, you had a transition and I think I hopped in front of it there.
Very possibly. And I
Okay.
started thinking about the 2008 crash and buying houses, and it's gone now. So
Yep. It's gone. Oh well,
it's gone. That's okay. So
there'll be more.
yeah, so when you're going around and meeting women, because we talked a little bit about this from the initially from the like women's perspective of like, okay, if I'm a woman, what should I strive for? What should I strive to learn? And I'll kind of take it back to the concepts from the book, specifically about wealth building for men or women. Right. So there's this there's this weight that comes from having family that gives gifts too much. I believe they referred to it as the outpatient care, right? So if you grow up in a household where you had an affluent lifestyle, you had nice things, and your parents are the kinds of people that frequently gift cash or, basically keep your life not being
Oh,
difficult,
yep. I see where you're
then
going.
that can have a negative effect on basically how much you understand the correlation between your hard work and the money that you have and the wealth that you can build. And frequently those people who are in those situations where they, they're it's not that like it's a bad thing to be gifted money, but if you never experience the side of like really having to figure your stuff out because there's no backup plan, there's no safety net. It's not like, oh, well, yeah, my yearly income is boosted 10K every year just because I've always gotten that gift. So therefore, I'm going to live a lifestyle instead of a 70K lifestyle. I'm going to live an 80K lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right. So those people never learn that the like the wealth building principles in general,
Hmm.
usually, it's more of like, oh, I make more, I spend more. Um, and frequently, when the gift giving happens, then it does, it increases what someone thinks they are making and thus increases their spending. And so if something should happen and the parents stop giving the money or they try to withhold control of that or any of those things, that can lead to someone not having a strong foundation for how to handle their own money. And so, is it like when you're someone who's in that situation, you don't really you don't even realize necessarily that you don't know how to handle your own money because frequently the people that are affluent in those things, like they'll try to spend somewhat, like it's not necessarily frugal, like they can invest a lot of time and energy into finding a deal on something. That does not
Hmm.
necessarily mean they know how to keep their money. They know how to build wealth because like being frugal and finding deals can go together to build wealth for sure.
Yeah.
But if you are finding, if I make 100K a year and I find a deal on a Ferrari for 50K
Hmm.
and I get a great deal, that doesn't mean that I'm spending my money wisely and keeping it. I'm
Yeah.
still consuming.
Yep.
So,
Dopamine chasing almost
yeah,
at that
right,
point.
right. So, how do you, like, as a person in those circumstances, how do you take a step outside of yourself and really look at, okay, like what have I really been challenged with in life, and what's really been like handed down, what have I had to work for,
Hmm.
and we've all got various ranges of this, right? So usually the people who become the millionaires and the people who learn are the people who came from the bottom, the people who had to learn those lessons the hard way and how to keep their money.
Hmm.
And I certainly wouldn't say that I've been like at the bottom. I've been, blessed with the family that I have, and the situations that I have in life. And I do work hard, but I certainly wouldn't say that I've experienced that rock bottom, in an absolute way. But well, climbing, living in a Connex is like close to being homeless, but it's not quite because you got a nice place to be. But um, some people, in fact, I hear actually enjoy living in Connexes and tend to do that frequently. Uh-oh. What you looking at your Connex box, Will?
Yeah, I'm looking at my Connex, living in the shipping container life, baby.
I love it.
It's pretty good. I enjoy it. I think that
Sure.
there's this strange balance that goes with like having wealth. I was actually talking to Dad about this last night. Trust fund baby syndrome, right? Like I was talking to our father last night, whom I am named after, and also my grandfather and whatnot. So, Will the Third. But I was talking to my dad last night, our dad, about like how does one, because like we're all into cryptocurrency in this family except for our sister. She's still new, but like I'm working on onboarding her shortly. But like he was talking about um like if he were to unexpectedly pass away, like the means by which he would um he would essentially put his investments to work, and how like it would pass on to us and things of that nature. And so the topic of discussion came up about like, trusts versus inheritance, taxability versus non-taxability. Like, how would my life change if I received someone else's wealth as opposed to earn my own wealth? And like, what sort of character development would, like, how many of these like boxes do I already have to have checked in order to like maximize like my effective use of like the stuff in the sudden wealth like syndrome box? Um, but yeah, we were discussing this and we didn't really come to a conclusion of our own. But I've heard, Patrick Bet David talk about this. I've heard Andrew Tate talk about it. I presume that Donald Trump talks about it to his son and heard it from his father. Like that. There's an example for you. Like Donald Trump, like came from his father's massive amount of wealth, and then he made even more money on top of that. Donald Trump Jr., who's like the third generation of wealth in his, and so I'm kind of pulling this all off of my head here. So correct me if I'm wrong, or ignore me if I'm wrong. But like my idea is like, generation one, uh, grandfather Trump, and then Donald Trump generation two, and then Donald Trump Jr. generation three. Like I imagine that Donald Trump Jr. probably like didn't have to go out into the woods and like hunt deer and chop wood and like fight people on the streets, to like sell things. Like he probably had a relatively cushy upbringing. And again, I'm just assuming here, right? But like what sort of character development differences will that have with a person, as opposed to like, I don't know, like having to claw your way from the streets like Jay-Z selling crack as a young man, like in order to make enough money to get to the point where he's now like this super crazy successful like musician and stuff, an entrepreneur and all that. Like, how much does the rough upbringing help an individual become like the type of high quality, high character, whatever, that is necessary to like, or maybe not necessary, but certainly helpful in like the use of putting your finances to like to positive work. Like it's said that that generational wealth often only lasts 3 or 4 generations. And there's a few instances in history where this isn't true. There's a famous family in Italy from like, I think their wealth lasted 7 generations. PBD talks about it from time to time, but it's like, is it wise to introduce aspects of difficulty into young people's lives, like children specifically, like whether they're a boy or a girl? Like, what difference does difficulty have on boys turning into, like, eventually turning into men versus girls eventually turning into women? Like, what is the positive and the negatives, and what's all the game theory that one has to go through when raising one's children, and deciding like, hey, like, I've got thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Like, should I gift my children nice things, or should I make them work for it? What's the outcome of doing this? What's the outcome of doing that? Have I war gamed all the scenarios? Have I planned all this stuff out? Have I thought about the consequences? Or am I just doing it because like maybe it feels good in the now, or like my child like gives me a smile and like says, "Oh, daddy, I love you," or whatever, right? Like, are we chasing the immediate dopamine hit? Are we chasing the 5 minute dopamine hit? Are we chasing you know the 1 year or the 5 year like life changing character building habits and processes here? So just these are definitely some things to think about if one comes upon or earns a massive amount of wealth, when it comes to passing on whatever things made you successful to your children, and avoiding common pitfalls that happen to other folks that come upon wealth and things like that. I've been talking for a long time, Sam. Do you have any thoughts?
Nah, you're good.
Oh, and
So I was thinking a
cheers
little
to
bit
her.
about, yeah, cheers, Eric. Thanks for watching.
Yes, sir.
So I was thinking a little bit about how, initially we were talking about the as a woman, how should I look at my financials
Mhm.
and managing, not managing, that kind of stuff, and type A,
Yes.
type B. And then we talked a
Yes.
little bit about from a man's perspective, what would I like in a woman, type A, type B kind of thing.
Yep.
But we're a little transitioning here into a little bit more about how would I approach this as a parent, right?
Mhm.
Knowing that I'm going to, let's say I'm going to raise a son and a daughter, how should I approach each one? And of course the personality differences that occur even then, like say you have two boys, they're going to be two different people. So, you know, how do we apply these principles to our children? Because there's so much about wealth building that comes down to deep psychologically rooted like ability to make difficult decisions, ability to forego now for the future, um, like just understanding how money works, understanding like just there's a knowledge that comes with it. Um, you know, there's so much information that someone needs to understand on a deep level, not just consciously. Like the lessons you learn from the doing, and you can't just pour money at it. Like if you was like, oh well, I want my kids to be wealthy, so I'm just going to pour money at it. It doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
And what it seems to me that needs to be done is that your kids need to learn the lessons sort of on their own, and now you can use the wealth to like feed the process for sure, and it can be a tool that can allow for opportunities, and things. But it certainly seems that just throwing money at it is not necessarily the way. I mean, lots of people think like, "Oh, I'm going to pay for a private education. I'm going to pay for my kids to go to college. I'm going to pay for my kids to get their masters." They're investing all this money in this education because it's been associated with kids. They learn, they get smart, and then they go do smart job that makes them lots of money. But the problem is most of the time they just make the lots of money and then they just spend the lots of money. They never
Yeah.
learned the wealth building along the way, and how you can build wealth. If you make a little money, you can build wealth if you make a lot of money.
Mhm.
And frankly, you're more likely to not be building wealth if you're making a lot of money, because you probably chased the lot of money so that you could spend a lot of money and have the nice lifestyle. So, how do you instill these lessons in your children and create the kinds of children that are going to want to be like that are going to be good long-term mates for their future partners to be
Mhm.
with, right?
Yeah.
So, because it feels good to spend money on your children. It's like,
Mhm.
oh yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
can,
Yeah. Gives
like,
us a dopamine rush.
right. It's like, oh, I worked hard for this thing. I love my children, and I'm going to now spend the money and we're going to do this thing. Or like they want to learn piano or something. And so you buy them a new piano, or um, you know, you do this. And it's not like it's bad to buy your children a piano. That's not what I'm saying. But the recognizing that simply because it feels good to spend your money on your children does not mean it is good in every case to spend your money on your
Correct.
children. Um, and so that's where they're like there's frequently going to be this battle. And I would argue that it's more difficult for women than men in this particular case, because uh, women are naturally going to want comfortable, nice things for their children. Like they want the
Yes.
best for their children, and that's a good thing.
Yep.
But when that's not uh,
When it's not balanced,
when it's
when
not
there's no
balanced,
no
yeah,
counter to that.
right. When there's no counter to that, and it's just like it just keeps going and going, going, and then you get
Yep.
spoiled children that have they just understand how a lifestyle should be lived, and those are the
Yeah.
lessons they learn, and that's how they're going to live their lifestyle. And
A
so it
yin needs a yang.
right, it would be important for both men and women to understand as parents that like, oh, just because maybe I feel like I want to do this thing, and it seems like it'd be a good positive thing to spend this money on my kids or to give this kids this gift. Maybe there's another way I should approach it and not just hand out the money.
Mhm.
Maybe I could put a lesson in here somehow.
Yeah.
Not necessarily about like control, use the money for control. But that's something I was thinking
Well,
about while going through the
yeah, it's like
millionaire
it's
books. Go
as a
ahead.
tool. You use it as a tool. Like everything is a tool. right? And our ability to get things accomplished is our efficacy of using each tool for things that they're intended or things that they're like not intended for. You know, like one of the things Rolla talks about all the time is like fire can be used to burn your house down, or it can be used to like warm you in the cold, or like cook your food or whatever. So it's like if you use your money wisely, if you learn these things via other people's experience and your own, you can sort of kind of fast track making a lot of bad decisions by observing other people that are both successful and not successful, and implementing and avoiding their lifestyle choices respectively. You know, the there's it, like you'll go down to a right path to tie that thought off. There was something that you were like as you were talking, it reminded me of are you familiar with the lorem ipsum text generator?
The text generator? No.
Yeah, so lorem ipsum dolor sit is like it's like a text generator for like, when you're determining like a letter heading, or you want to see like what like words look like on a page, or you want to like test a font out. There's this internet generator of like a Latin I think it's a Latin statement, but basically the whole like lorem ipsum is more or less a meme on the internet, right? But it started out as like a practical meme, and like when you translate the Latin, it essentially the message boils down to like delayed gratification. I'm putting it in the chat right now. Um, A wise man therefore always holds in these matters to this principle of selection. He rejects pleasures to secure other greater pleasures, or else he endures pains to avoid worse pains. So this is basically just the theme of what we're talking about here, right? Is like the ability to say no to dopamine or say yes to temporary discomfort, all in the purpose of securing like better outcomes, right? So like that's it's the it like as you were talking there, I was like, oh shit, lorem ipsum dolor sit. Like that's the internet text generator thing, and I got a little bit excited about that. But the like the overarching theme of there needs to be a balance. There needs to be an opposite for every sort of like mindset. Like you and I are not the same. We're similar in many respects, but our opposite characteristics are complementary, right? Like I'm a bit more conservative. You're a bit more like fast moving and crazy paced, right? And perhaps that has to do with our like who knows like why these principles or why these differences exist, but like complementary like opposites are generally speaking pretty good, because that's how you maintain adaptability in most types of like environments, in most sorts of scenarios. And if you're raising your kids from like an all female perspective of like, you know comfort and love and safety and protection and stuff, and there's no danger, there's no excitement, there's no like risk or whatever from like the more masculine side of things, like then you're going to have kids that are lopsided onto one aspect versus the other. And like the same is true like for kids that are raised only by their fathers. They're going to have more masculine tendencies and more risk taking, rational, like logical stuff, and they're going to be lacking in the empathetic and the emotional and the more like communicative sort of skills that come in life. So it's good to have both the yin and the yang, the man and the woman, like
Mhm.
like all the aspects in life, and then to pick and choose like whatever your particular preference is in all those things. But it's good to have input from all the sides, and then take the best lessons and employ them as you go through life.
What do you think, Will, about the differences in approach from a parenting perspective on sons and daughters? So it seems as though, you know, earlier today looking up a list of builders, right? So but like 95%, I would say, of the builders are men, you know,
Yes,
not a lot of women building custom homes in this area,
most likely.
just so
Yep.
happens to be, just the way it is.
Mhm.
So, that extrapolated outwards would probably mean that generally either combination of a few things. Men are going to be willing to work harder, longer, faster, all of those things. This is in most cases that are going to put them in more powerful positions to make more money,
Hmm.
most likely. So, knowing that that opportunity and that world exists for your sons, and that it would be a much harder world to break into as a woman for your daughters,
Hmm.
how would you approach the wealth building thing for your sons versus your daughters?
How would I approach it? Well, making the assumption that raising boys to be masculine and girls to be feminine is the most optimal course of action that one could take. I would encourage them both to learn the principles, and then after they have the principles, then I would guide them down the separate paths of like assertion and as well as like service. So like an important thing for men is like leadership and decision making processes and abilities. And in order to be a good, effective leader, it is most often beneficial to have been a good follower first. So I suppose you could start with teaching them both how to be good followers, and then from there take the boys into a more like leadership y type and like risk taking and hard decision making and like cuts and scrapes and bruises and like broken bones and bashes against the head kind of like lifestyle of take risks. Well, so not like directly beating the children. Let me clarify for the sake of whatever, but like
You're
introducing
getting
risk. Like
stronger, son. Damn
also
it.
like boys should be going around and like riding skateboards, holding onto the back of cars, and doing dangerous stuff. Like
Huh.
yeah, I say that specifically because some things that we did when we were younger. Um, but like boys should be doing things that are generally like more risk tolerant, and it benefits women more to be risk averse, generally speaking. So like if you look at a man and he's got a scar on his face, right? Then that means that something happened to him that scarred his face, which means he was doing dangerous things and got like caught and survived, right?
Mhm.
So there's like that's like when you see people with scars on their face, or it means a horrible accident happened or whatever. But the point is like something dangerous happened and they survived. That's what a scar says. Scars are generally something that it benefits men to have, and it behooves women to avoid as much as possible. Like women don't really benefit from going to war and shooting the guns and dragging people out of burning buildings and doing all that sort of things. It doesn't really like develop the right kind of character that is necessary for women to accomplish feminine goals in life. Like if you want to be a woman that does like traditionally masculine things, by all means go for it. But it's like just understand that like what are the trade-offs that you're experiencing by doing these things, right? So for the to to bring it back to your original question, how would you raise boys versus how would you raise girls? Like I would want to encourage the boys to place themselves into more risky scenarios, take more risky moves, fall down on their face, and like like do the do the like the like I would give boys more liberality in experiencing uh difficult situations in order to build like character that is important for strong men to have, right? Like the tree that never experiences a windstorm will get knocked over by the first one that like comes into town, versus the tree that's like growing deep roots because it's always like getting pelted by rain and snow and like gales and things. Like it'll develop a strong root system and it'll stay upright whenever like times of tumult and times of stress come along. So I would want to give boys more like opportunity to uh, take risks in a semi-controlled manner, right? I don't want my children dying, right? We don't want our children to experience like debilitating injury and things like that. So there's a bit of nuance and a uh bit of intelligence or wisdom in that decision making process that would be necessary. And I would lead the girls down a more conservative path of like, hey, like you need to like think about saving and think about like you think about like good spending decisions versus bad spending decisions. I would be teaching the boys more like what is the risk, what is the reward, like what is the leverage that you can employ, as opposed to like what's the safety that you should like exist inside of, right? I think that men should ignore safety, or not ignore safety, but men should aim for risk with high reward, and women should go for more conservative, more safe, more uh things of that nature sort of plays. Does that sort of kind of answer
Yeah.
your question? Like
Yeah.
I don't know specifics. I can't think of specific details, but that would be like the general like direction I would want them to um be headed in. Just to
Yeah.
kind of
Fair enough.
maximize the genetic coding and maximize the way that like attraction works. Like men are generally not attracted to masculine women. Risk is generally associated with more like masculine occupations or masculine things, like building bridges or laying bricks or going to war or like rappelling off of skyscrapers to wash windows or whatever, right? Like it's generally more masculine, and women generally succeed in more like feminine type things, like, you know, nursing and teaching and doctoring and things of that nature. Like more communicative, more social, more like empathetic and sort of things. So I would aim to like just as a generalization, like aim to send each of the respective genders down the path that I think is most statistically likely to make them a more valuable person in the eyes of the opposite sex, who they will most likely at some point in their life have like want to attract in order to build a family of their own, and continue my genetic legacy ad infinitum.
So it's, you're trying to point them down a path that
Hmm.
is going to most likely lead to them having, you know,
Yeah, it's a game of
ultimately, let's say,
probabilities.
like, yeah, right. So you're going to play to the strengths,
Hmm.
right? Where the sexes are different and we have different strengths and our brains work different ways.
Hmm.
So,
You'll get a much better return on your investment teaching girls how to sew and boys how to open pickle jars than like vice versa, as far as like effective, like positive uses of time. You know,
mhm,
that's just
there's
that's
going to be natural
proclivities
proclivities, proclivities,
or preferences, whatever the word might be.
right?
Yeah, I think that would be the most like just general general foundation upon which to build. Like, you can lay a nice good foundation, and then you could build a shed, or you could build a mansion, or you could build a tunnel, or you could build a bridge, or you could build many things, but you have to like lay a solid foundation upon which like everything can come up from, you know. And I think that like when you're building a foundation, you want to take in the most information possible. You want to like know the things that like what to expect in the future, right? You got to know if it's like a sandy area, or you got to know if it's like got this, that, and the other quality of dirt, like to kind of go into your foundational experience. Things like the foundation is like the boat upon which a house will float over the years, right? Like a house that's built on a mountain, like drilled straight into the rock, is going to move a lot less than a house built in the desert. And so you have to build different foundations for each of the two, and you have to know the environment, you have to know the circumstances, and you have to lay that proper layer of concrete before you start building on top of it in whatever direction you want to chase things in life and get goals accomplished and stuff.
Fair enough. So in the book, it was talking a little bit about. You spoke a little bit about this earlier. Is how generational wealth is difficult to keep in the family.
Yes.
Typically, because it's like once you've got the money, there's way more pressure by society, especially in America, to
Hmm.
live affluently and spend. And
Hmm.
then it's very difficult when you're living that way to separate the how did we get here from the where are we at? And the children
Hmm.
never learn the how did the parents get here part, right? And so it seems to be that's typically why that's happening. And
Yeah.
so let's say you were you had $50 million at your disposal and you're trying to think about how you're going to be like using that money
Hmm.
to teach a lesson. What might be a lesson you would try to teach?
Well, this like is there, man, I hate to be the guy that's like, oh, well, what are you specific, like what are the specific parameters of your question? Because man, that is so broad. I could probably go on this for days. But
Well, let me point you in a more specific, not to give you
okay.
specific things, but I'll give you a direction. So, you know, your
Is there
son's
like an
in
age?
yeah, so like you say, your son's in middle school. You know,
Yeah.
they're starting to understand, like, okay, money does things, money buys things, it does this, that, and the
Mhm.
other, right? So, like, you know, if you've presumably built this wealth, you're not necessarily living an affluent lifestyle. You're living a normal lifestyle,
Perhaps.
and
Yeah.
yeah, perhaps, and you know, so your son is going to see that. You know, what might be an effective way to use that money, which is just potential energy, right, to accomplish goals, right? How would you might maybe apply that to a son? Let's say you've got your son for a week, and
Mhm.
you're going to go do a father son thing.
I think that the first thing that I would want to do is I would want to make sure it's abundantly clear to him that it's my money. It belongs to me. And him being in my proximity gives him, like, the benefit of being around my wealth, but it is mine. It is not his. I would want him to understand the principles of ownership and the principles of earning things and the principles of like authority, responsibility, and accountability, right? So the thing that I would want to teach him is like more of a long-term goal, but like how can like he is also my child, and there's a like the younger that they are, the more I own them, and then the older that they get, the more like I back off of my like not ownership in like the slave sense, but ownership in like the accountability, responsibility, authority sense, where it's
Mhm,
like as they get further and further and further like leveled up in their ability to manipulate and interact with the world on their own, the more and the more I have to like back off my like the authority, accountability, responsibility like that I have inside their lives. So I would want to encourage them from a young age to, or maybe even impose on them in a young age to go out and like earn their own shit. And like when they're around me, they get the benefit of like whatever I want to do with my money. That just so
mhm,
happens to be the thing that I want. But I would want to like teach them like, hey, ownership, uh, going out and like earning shit themselves. So like I always joke with all my friends like, oh, you got to throw your kids in the coal mines as soon as they turn 3 or something, right? And like it's a fun little joke, but like the principle being like children need to interact with the adult world. I think the more time that you spend doing things, the better that you get. They say it like takes 10,000 hours to develop mastery in something, and so why should in my mind, I don't think that it's correct for a person to wait until they're like, 15, 16, 17, 18 to start doing adult things when they could be doing it. Like you've only got 30,000 days of existence in the world. So, like, multiply that by 24, we'll say 20, right? And you have like roughly 600,000 hours of life. And so, you cut out a third of that for sleeping and another third of that for like, driving and doing laundry and going to the bathroom and stuff. And you end up with like, oh shit, I got like 200,000 hours of, going around and making decisions, doing things. So like, how can I maximize that time to like to get the most out of life? And so I think that getting kids involved in the real world as soon as possible is the most effective way. So if I had my 8-year-old middle school son, like I would hope that there's already some sort of like thing that he's doing to go out and learn how to interact with adults and basically just be like an adult himself who's just smaller and knows less and has less experience, right? I would want him to be out there, like cutting people's lawns or like walking people's dogs or selling lemonade or I don't know, maybe fixing their plumbing or something, right? Like I would want to spend my time with my kid teaching him the lessons of how to get his own shit first. And then once he understands that, then he could be like, then he can see how successful I am, and how all my stuff like is only vicariously his to the point that I decide that it is. Like he doesn't own it. He doesn't have any stake in my wealth. It's all mine. It all belongs to me. It's all for me to achieve my goals, whatever my goals might be. And those will change as time moves forward. but like that would be the thing that I would do with the son first, is get him employed and get him the opportunities to learn as much and to maximize his time, like getting the most foundational knowledge so that way he can decide what kind of house he wants to build on his foundation.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, what about you? What would you do?
That's a good question. Well, first I want to touch on like the 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 topic you were going over was very much related to something that was also mentioned in this book on the importance of children knowing that their parents' money is not theirs.
Yeah.
There was something that was mentioned where they did a little like a study, or I don't remember what it was that they did, but basically some dad yeah, you've posed this question to your kids, or say this thing. Oh, let's see. Okay, Instagram has been disconnected from the stream. They do 1 hour streams. There we go. Remove.
All right.
So we're only live on YouTube now, which doesn't really matter if I'm saying that on Instagram because it's disconnected. So the principles of children understanding that their parents' money is not their own. So right. So if you pose this situation to your children
Hmm.
and you're at the dinner table and you say, you know what, mom and I have agreed that we're going to take this big property that maybe you've had this big property. It's a ranch or something, and you've
Hmm.
been like having fun on it and doing cool stuff on it, riding quads, riding dirt bikes, whatever. If as a family, like the kids have been able to enjoy this property because you own it as parents, and you say, we're going to go ahead and turn around and we're going to give it away to this charity, this church thing, and we're going to let them, do stuff with it. We're still going to own it, but like we're not going to be doing anything on the property anymore. And you see how they react. And if they react, it's one thing to be bummed that like they won't have access to doing a fun thing, but
Yeah.
if they react in such a way that it's like, no, you don't get to do that because it's
Ooh,
mine too.
jealousy versus envy.
Yes. So if they react in that way, then it's like, okay, well then they never learned that that wasn't theirs. They thought it
Hmm.
was theirs. And so I think you're speaking to a very important point, which is the children need to understand that your wealth that you've built is not theirs.
Hmm.
Um, so that's sort of, you got to break that entitlement. So that's probably one of the first things I would aim for. Sort of like you said, I would want there to be opportunities, specifically because we're speaking about sons. I'd want there to be opportunities to take risks and to understand the once that first step is taken and they like understand, well, like you keep what you kill, right?
Yep.
I go out and I work for this thing, it's mine, right? So I can choose to do good with it, I can choose to do bad with it, but I get to choose, right? And you don't like, just because you think you might know better as a parent, you might give advice or direct on a positive way to do something with the money, but ultimately you would never step on their authority to do something with the money, even though you could as a parent.
Yeah.
Like you'd never do that.
Hmm.
So I would want them to learn, the like the benefits of risk versus reward, and how, oh, I can apply my time to this thing. Maybe it got me a reward, maybe I got nothing out of it. But now I understand that I can apply my energy to things and maybe I can get a good result. I could also waste my time. I would want them to experience that, however that may be. And one of the frequent problems that was brought up was that frequently the people that work the hardest, specifically immigrant groups that come into the country, that are these hardworking people that create all these companies that run all this stuff. There's this mentality that like they had to work this hard to build this wealth so that their family doesn't have to work that hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they do that process, and they Americanize their family and turn them
Mm.
into consumers. And
Yeah.
how like, okay, well now you don't have to mow lawns and run a landscaping company because that's what I did. Now you can go to college and you can go become an architect. You can go become a lawyer or a doctor or something like that, right? You can make
Hmm.
all this money up here, which allows you
And
to
then the thing that made them successful is not passed on. Yeah.
correct. So that's a very typical problem. And so what I would want to do is I'd want to counter that. And it's like, not everyone's meant to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone's meant to run a business. There's a great book, E-Myth Revisited. Highly recommend. Go read it if you want to learn about running a business versus just being an employee and
I got
how
that from
people
mom
have.
just
Oh,
recently.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
great. Sounds like she's giving the right gifts.
Oh yeah. Our excellent.
So
Go check her out, Christine Stevenson, enrolled agent. She's got a book. Go buy it. How to
she does
Avoid
have a book.
Trouble with the IRS. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Audible. Again, that's How to Avoid Trouble with the IRS. Shout out to you, mother, if you're listening, which you're not. But if you catch this on the replay,
Shout out.
sorry,
Excellent.
sorry. The E-Myth Revisited. You were saying?
Yeah, that's right. So the E-Myth Revisited, discussing like technicians versus business owners, right?
Hmm.
Some people are built for different roles. And they're, while in general, you're more likely to be able to build wealth if you go into owning a business for yourself. There, you can also build wealth without doing that.
Hmm.
Not everyone's meant to do that. So, but I would certainly want my children to see, to maybe try it out, to see like what it takes, at least on a very basic level of skills. Like, okay, if they're 8 years old, they're not going to be applying for an LLC and doing their income taxes and this, that, and the other, right? Just, that's not going to be a thing.
Hmm.
But they can learn the feedback of the work being the results you get being a product of your work, and that is the only factor, right? So that would be something that I would say is it would be an important thing to learn and apply lessons to. And those situations could be created with money. I mean, because you know, if you don't have the money to create the opportunities, then it's much more difficult to create the opportunities.
Yeah,
So
100%.
that would be something that I would certainly apply it towards. And I would always be willing to share what I know, and more importantly, I'd be willing to share like how I got to what I know, because it's like I can't download all of the things that I've read in my brain just by
Yeah.
like summarizing some things. Like it's
Yep.
when I've learned all the stuff that I have in the books that I've read, I've picked and chosen things from those books, and I've
Yeah.
formulated them, and I've put them in the equation that is my brain and the things that I value. And like you're a totally different person, so
Well,
we all
I like where
go
you're
ahead.
going with this. This reminds me of the book club that we're going to do on Friday, where we're going to be discussing this very book that brought on this whole conversation, The Millionaire Next Door. It's good to have, you know, a wide variety of people's opinions on like information, so that way you can get not only your perspective on what the author is trying to say, but what other people think the author is trying to say, and where there's like disparity, where there's commonality, where like one person can find some really cool things and where another person can find some other cool things. The more well-rounded one's education is, the better. So it's you're absolutely right. And like there's also something to be said about the price that you got to pay for reading a book, right? So you have to pay the money cost, you have to pay the time cost, you have to pay the attention cost. You don't necessarily have to pay like a caloric cost, right? But like caloric cost in the sense that like your body is dying, like while you're reading this book, your cells are going through the process of like being used and regenerated and grown again, right? And that makes you like last longer. But you can quantify that as time. But you have to pay a cost to get this knowledge, and paying that cost makes it intrinsically more valuable to you. So like if you spend like a week going through this book and like also reading it, then rereading it, writing down the notes, doing all sorts of doing all sorts of analysis and going through all sorts of like going through all sorts of like cost to extract all of the information out of it, and then I like flip through the 15-minute like little Snopes synopses, not Snopes, whatever the app is that like condenses the book into like a little 15-minute chunk, and I go through that,
Mhm.
and then I go off and do other things, and then we both like compare like the value that we each give to our own personal like interpretation of like the stuff. Like the person who sacrifices more is going to intrinsically like personally value the thing more than the person who didn't, like in one metric. Now like it might just be possible that like they have a different efficiency of pulling out the information, right? That could like
Mhm.
all other things being equal, like the person who does the work and goes through the effort and then figures this stuff out on their own is going to have a more like a higher value metric than the person who just like does the easy thing and like gets the who like basically like just like eats the almonds out of the bag versus cracks them themselves with the nutcracker and then like goes through the process of eating them. So that's my little take on uh on the book reading and stuff. And so I think it's good to just have a diversity of thought, and also like it's good to understand like the more that you sacrifice for a thing, the more that you will inherently value it as a metric of measuring um genetic predisposition to measure to value things that we sacrifice lots of value for. The ledger's got a balance.
Right. And I think this would be a great place to plug in a certain resource that you have been building recently where, you know, we are where we are because of like combination of life experience and also the things we've chosen to read and learn,
Yep.
right? And so if someone sees a certain thing that we're doing that they want to personally, then it seems rather helpful to have a resource that is like a little breadcrumb. It's like, oh, well, how did you get here? What did you read? You know, people like to always ask
Yeah.
for these influencers' book lists and things like that. So, tell me,
Yep.
well, is there something that you've put together that is a breadcrumb trail for those who want to learn
An
more?
excellent introduction. So I have put together an Excel spreadsheet because I very much like Excel spreadsheets. I'm coming to find as I go through life. But I've put together an Excel.
Uh oh, that's poor timing. Looks like we lost Will. He's back in here. Throw him back on the
Right.
stage.
So I accidentally closed out the All right, so
Gotta
I
leave
have
the streaming tab
again.
open.
But I was like, I was reading it, and then I was like, wait a minute, I need to be streaming right now. Oopsies. So let me open up another tab, and I'm gonna kind of give you guys the little spiel that I've put together. So I've got a system, and I didn't come up with this idea on my own. I stole it from somebody who's way smarter than me that I can't remember his name, but it's like Tiago Tiago something or something like that. So shout out to that guy that I'm not giving due credit for, but he's got this quote that really like stuck with me. That it's like our brains are meant for ideas. We have pieces of paper, we've got computers, we've got hard drives, we've got spreadsheets. We have the ability to write things down and to access it easily using the tools that are available to us, like in this technological age that we live in. So like essentially, and I joke around about this all the time, but like I'm incredibly forgetful. I forget things all the time, and so one of the ways that I engineer my forgetfulness out of the equation is I write things down. I put things on spreadsheets. I like set alarms. I do all these things because I know that like my ability to remember is not very great. My joke is that it's all RAM, no hard drive, right? So I'm constantly thinking of things, but I'm not remembering a lot of it. So what I did to solve this problem is I created a whole bunch of Excel spreadsheets where I can find a whole bunch of things super duper easy. And like just it's a whole bunch of links, it's a whole bunch of ideas, it's a whole bunch of stuff just on a bunch of different sheets, and I call it the Better Info Better Life spreadsheet. And I have several pages. One page is a series of links to podcast where like I have the title, I have the host or the book that they're talking about, I've got the guest. In some of them I've even got like timestamps linked in there, but like it's all like anyone can put in whatever they want in these sort of things. But I've got a sheet full of podcasts. I've got a sheet full of cool apps, whether it's like using happyscribe.com, which is like an AI thing that turns sounds into scripts. So if you like, so like you can apply like happyscribe.com to any sort of video, and it will crank out like like a transcript of it. There's all sorts of tools like clip.opus.pro, uh www or www.4irs.gov/secure access for your ability to create an ID on the IRS's website that will allow you to see like what the IRS knows about you, so that way you know what they expect you to pay on taxes and what you actually owe on
Oh
taxes.
man, I
So
gotta check that out.
yeah, so that's in, so like all of these things, right? So like I've realized that time is the most efficient, or the most valuable thing that we have, right? So not everybody has the time to watch all of my podcasts on the DGen Roundtable, to watch all of Alex Hormozy's podcasts on his channel, to watch all of Joe Rogan's stuff, like to watch all of the Rule Zero stuff. Like people need to know where they can find valuable information. And so what I do personally is whenever I find valuable stuff, I save it into my Excel spreadsheet, into any one of the different, I've got the podcasts, I've got the online tools, I've got books. I should at some point put in a quotes thing. I need to put in a like important people and their phone numbers and their addresses and like how I can contact folks. Like there's so many things in the world that are valuable that I don't want to forget, that like I have it saved on my phone. Like the first, when I open my phone up, right, it's like this Excel spreadsheet is like thing number one that I see. So whenever I'm doing something, it's just like, oh, snap, put it in there, copy the link, save it, put in a quick description, go about doing like my daily tasks. But there's all sorts of cool things that exist in the world, and it behooves people to keep track of all the cool things so that way you don't like forget it. Like the graveyards of our ancestors are filled to the brim with untapped potential as far as like information, experience, knowledge, artistic work, all these things. I was back home in Port Angeles, Washington, walking around with my good friend Derek, and we were going on an adventure that required us to basically like pass through a graveyard to get to our destination. And as we were going through the graveyard, we just started looking at all the tombstones because we are interested in like how many people had been there for how long, and et cetera, et cetera. And like seeing all the moss on all these tombstones, and all the people whose family is long gone, and who they're essentially like forgotten in life, and they for all intents and purposes, like whatever their life's work was is more or less defunct or irrelevant. Like I got to thinking, like, man, I need to save as much of my time as possible so that way I can have the maximum impact on the world, and I can like do things as efficiently as possible, and like not forget stuff, and know where to find things, and know who to connect and how to connect. And it's just like we've all only got so much time. We need to know. I'm just repeating myself now, but like that's how I came to this conclusion. And then I found this dude who said that, hey, your brain isn't meant for storing things; it's meant for thinking about stuff. So use other tools for storing. Don't use your brain. Like we're not where we. You don't want to train yourself to become a shitty calculator, right? You don't need to memorize the multiplication tables anymore. You have you have your phones, you have computers, you have literal calculators that you can carry around that will do the math for you faster, quicker, better, more accurately. Like, don't turn yourself into a shitty version of Google by memorizing facts. Carry Google around with you. Do all these things. Use your tools to their maximum efficacy, and maximize your time as well, like while you're doing this. So I'd built this Excel spreadsheet, and at some point I think I might monetize it in case there's somebody else who would want to follow my steps, or glean my knowledge, because this thing's taking me a whole lot of effort to build. And so at some point, I mean, I might put it out into the world for free, or I might, like, right now I'm sharing it with you, Sam, because like it's important to me, and I know that you also contribute to it, and you also find things that I don't know. So like, because we're both constantly building each other up, and learning new things, and we're going down different paths, like we can combine our power to make our impact in the world like so much more effective and stuff. But at some point I
Mhm.
might sell it. At some point I might allow access to it. I might, do my own thing. And you can do the same, for yourself, and anyone listening to this can do the same. We're just two assholes on the internet talking about our feelings and talking about our thoughts. But like, anyone can do this stuff. It just takes effort. Ideas are cheap.
Mhm.
It's just it's the implementation of the ideas that is where the true value is. So go out and make your lives better. Go out and find some things. Write some stuff down. Make some Excel spreadsheets. Do whatever you want to do. But that's my 2 cents. So thank you for the opportunity for me to plug one of my life's works in in this little podcast that we have. This started about talking about, you know, is it good for women to be boss babes, or, good housewives? Who would have thought? We went down a bit of a rabbit hole. but I like it.
Slightly, but
Oh,
that's
snap.
okay.
Shout out to the Ascending Man who's got a podcast of his own. Go check him out on youtube.com. I want to say / at the Ascending Man, spelled just like it is there in the chats. I'm gonna actually, next time you start talking, Sam, I'm gonna find his channel and I can't post links because I'm not a moderator. We should change that at some point.
Oh, that would
But
be good.
I'll
Yeah.
send it to you in the private chat, then you can post it in the public chat. But
Okay.
yeah, big shout out to Nate, my good buddy, chilling here in the chats. Who are these dudes? Who are these dudes? Absolutely. What are your thoughts, Sam?
Oh, I see. You're plugging the IRS book. The link I just posted in the chat is the How to Avoid Trouble with the IRS book. So you ought to go read that and avoid trouble with the IRS. This is a good thing. Good thing.
Yes, definitely
So,
avoid trouble.
yeah, I was just thinking about how we started on a slightly different topic, and it's all kind of related.
Hmm.
Um, it's just it to kind of take it back to the original type A versus type B thing. Like with everything, there is nuance, and
Hmm.
everybody is different and has different goals, different priorities. And if you are, dating someone that is a certain type of personality and they have different mixes of these traits, then like if the relationship is positive and it's working for you and like you're both accomplishing the things that you want, then just keep doing it. Like it's not like you should be like, oh well, oh I didn't know the woman was supposed to bow down to everything and do all that. So I guess that's what I should be striving for. That's not necessarily what it means. It doesn't mean the other way either. Like, well, I didn't know that I was just supposed to like find a girl that like was super fantastic with all of her money and like knew how to run 3 businesses at once and do all these crazy things. Like, I guess I'll dump my current girlfriend and go find myself a go-getter. That way I can accomplish more goals. That doesn't mean that either.
Do
But
as thou wilt.
I will say that if you are with someone who is not aligning with your monetary goals, then careful tying yourself up monetarily
Yep.
because it matters. So there are everybody's got the different understanding of how to build wealth, right? Even the people that live affluently think that they know how to make a lot of money,
Hmm.
right? Because they are making the money, they're just turning around and spending it. So everyone's got their different goals, but
Yeah,
find
for sure.
someone who understands your principles. Excuse me.
Yep. And hey, if you want to be, if you're a man listening to this podcast and thank you, Nate. I appreciate that.
Hit the damn like button.
Yeah, make sure you guys hit that like button, comment, subscribe, share, and also send me your social security number. I need a new bank account. You could send that to bankaccountsforwill.gov or something. I don't know. I don't know. You can try that link. I don't know if it works. Um, but yeah, shout out to the Herc who's back with us again. Thinking that the big issue with men is that they don't know what's out there in terms of women. Absolutely right. And if you spend your life in a westernized country, you get used to generally one type of woman. This is absolutely correct. I hear constantly from my friends that are going over to Bali or Medellin or like Portugal or Bucharest or all over the world, right? Like all my buddies that are out there traveling, like the caliber of women that exist in different cultures other than westernized American culture. There's tons of different women out there, just like there's tons of different men out there. And if you want to be a soy boy cuck that goes and finds you a boss babe and then just leeches off of her success for your entire life, then people are free to do that. No judge. I mean, well, I'm going to judge you because it's inevitable that everyone judges everybody. But I'm not going to get in your way of chasing your goals, man. Whatever people's dreams are, get after it. Just know the best, most effective way possible to achieve your dreams, and also know like the statistical relevancy of how effective one's dreams might be. So like if you're a boss babe and you want like a nice little soy boy to suck on your teat for the rest of your existence and basically leech off of your success, then more power to you. I wish you the best. If you're like a not boss babe and you want like a nice strong man to like lead you through the troubles and tribulations that are in life, then excellent. You need to learn where to find them and how to get them and what are the things that they like as opposed to what are the things that normie men like or soy boy men like. So everyone, you need to know your target audience, like who you're aiming to attract, and you need to know what is most likely to attract them. Like what are the patterns of behavior that are most effective for getting the people that you want to be in your life to want to be in your life as well, and like what changes you need to make and what changes you need to implement in order to do such things. So that's this my little monologue there.
I like that.
What are your thoughts, Sam?
Yes.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
Yeah, I would say so. And I started along this whole journey. Of course, when you don't know anything about like the fact that this whole you know reality exists, and you start into it, you're like, oh well, I've been doing the wrong thing. So what's the right thing? And then I'll go do that thing. I'll go do that right thing. Then
Yep.
it's just too prescriptive. You're running into like different sources of information, and you kind of work with one at a time. Obviously, we can only intake so much information at one
Yeah,
time.
it's like a screwdriver can do the same thing as a drill, but like which one's more effective? You like knowing you need to understand the tools, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I interrupted you. Can continue down your little rabbit hole there. Not rabbit
So
hole,
yeah,
thought
so
process.
yeah, so basically um you can it's not necessarily like you'll start learning the wrong thing and get lost, but you
Hmm.
need to recognize that if you're going down this journey, that basically you're going to have a bunch of different mentors along the way,
Hmm.
and that's sort of what they are temporarily. Like if you read a book, the author is your mentor for that
Mentors, coaches,
brief
all that
period of
stuff.
time, right? So you're going to learn something from that, take what you like, leave the rest, right? And the more you do that, the more you're going to get better at taking what you like and leaving the rest, because it's a skill like anything else.
Hmm.
Um, so it's important to not think that any one thing is the right thing, and then part of the whole becoming as a for men is taking all of those little things and picking and choosing what is important to you and acting
Yep.
on it. Emphasis on the action part. If you want to, lessons on taking action, I highly recommend you join the Men of Action from Michael Sartain.
Oh,
I do not have an affiliate link, but I should get one.
I was gonna say, like, isn't there like fuckmichaelsartain.com? Is that the affiliate
Yes.
link?
For the old servers, so I don't think it works anymore. But you
Oh,
can
that was
still go to
stupid.
fuckmichaelsartain.com. I do believe it is still active.
There's
Let's
there's
see.
an example
Nope.
of like of ideas versus actions, right? So as I don't, is this okay to talk
Yeah,
about?
I don't care. Yeah, go right
Yeah,
ahead.
so you're telling me that like during one of the things that Michael does, one of his streams, I don't know if it was one of the Mondays that are open for everybody or if it was like a private stream, but anyways, a gentleman in the Men of Action was like, oh, it'd be a hilarious idea is like if somebody makes like a fuckmichaelsartain.com website or whatever. And it's like, and that's where the idea stopped as far as he's concerned. And then you took it and ran with it. You actually went and got the domain registered. You got like, you did all the trouble of building the website and all this stuff. It's like ideas are cheap, but actions are like the thing that makes the world go round. So it's like, uh, like people need to go out and do things, and that's how you make the world a better place. Whether it's like taking action, building websites as a joke because it's funny, and like making a crazy out like that's good. I'm gonna remember that for the rest of my life. Like that's what a good story, a good example of like of taking action. And it's silly and we laugh at it and all that, but like it's a good case study. It's a good example of like people need to do things instead of just talk about things. So
Hmm.
yeah, that was what do we got in the comments? I saw you were highlighting some stuff there. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, I'll bring it back to Herc. He brought up a good point about, if you want peace, then you can't get a Western woman.
Yeah,
I would say generally speaking that might be true, but I
that is
think it kind of
statistically
depends
relevant.
on
Yeah,
like what is your yes, statistically relevant, exactly.
yeah. It's
Like
like, are you are
what
you
is your definition of peace, right?
yeah, if you're reaching into the bucket of women, like you're most likely to pull out someone in the middle of the bell curve, not an exception. So like that's what the Herc is talking about here, and I know him moderately well, and I think that like that's what he's trying to say. So this isn't like a black and white statement. This is like there's nuance, and he's speaking in generalities, and he's
Mhm,
absolutely right. Like if you want peace, you're likely not going to find peace from a Western woman. That's just it's not uh it's just not statistically relevant. If you want a peaceful submissive woman, then you might have to go outside the country, and that's like where the passport bros come in play. And it's just like women in other cultures are so much like it's so much more competitive. Like they have such an advantage over Western women, and it's like the main thing that I noticed Western women doing is not learning from this, but just bemoaning and bitching about it. Like it's like, oh, you going out of the country to like go date other. It's like, yeah, like if what I want isn't here, like like if you go to a restaurant that serves massive amounts of pickles on your hamburgers and you don't like pickles, then like it's probably a good idea to go to a different restaurant. Like if the restaurant's complaining like, hey, why don't you like these pickles on your hamburgers? It's like, well, I'm allowed to like what I like and allowed to like what I don't like, or it, you know, man, what a little tongue twister there. Like we're allowed to
Mhm.
like and not like certain things. So it's very likely that you'll have to leave the states in order to, like, reach into that bucket of women and like expect to pull out one that you like, as opposed to one that you don't like or something like that. And oh man, we're just scrolling through these. I've been speaking and not reading. What's something you want to
Well, it
highlight
looks
here,
like
Sam?
he's speaking in generalities. He summarized what he was doing. Western women always want quote more, which means you'll always be in the rat race running. Even if you're not
Oh
in a 9 to
yeah,
5, you'll always need to be doing better in the capitalist society. I
yeah,
would
this is correct.
yeah, I would agree with that. And I don't
This,
necessarily so for me personally, I don't see like I come at it from a little bit of a different perspective now
mhm.
than I used to after going through sort of men of action thing, and like I see women as uh, like of course they're obviously human beings and they're intrinsically valuable, and
Mhm.
they are going to they're going to have a different role in my life than what I used to think.
Mhm.
And so while a lot of the traditionalist people are going to come out and say that Western women aren't going to bring peace, I think it's a different level of peace. Like, what is peace?
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
is
So
that I
like,
get to come home and she's going to massage my feet, or is that I come home and like, yeah, maybe she's going to be like a little bit sassy. Maybe she's going to like, kind of poke the bear. Maybe she's
mhm,
got that Western edge to her. Like maybe that's something that like makes me laugh and genuinely like makes my day better.
correct.
Right.
Everyone, like, people have different goals, different
Yeah.
levels of tolerance for different behavior
Right.
sets.
Right.
Okay,
So
yeah, yeah.
maybe I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna make a whole bunch of female friends, and they're gonna be these crazy Western women, and like they have crazy stories and like reaffirm a whole bunch of things that I think, and they're just like some people don't enjoy being around that, some people do. Uh,
Mhm.
I've always particularly thought women are pleasant to to be around, even in high school. So yeah,
Yes,
I just wanted to say that
yes,
like of course nuanced
indeed.
everything. Uh, um,
Oh my god.
let's see.
Sorry, Will, did not catch what you said about my earlier comment. Well, like I say all the time, Herc, I'm all RAM, no hard drive, so I forgot what it was too, bro. We're both gonna have to catch it on the replay, I guess.
He
Nothing
says,
wrong with
"Nothing
that.
wrong with that. Their role is to help us and make things better. So they'll want us to
Hmm.
do better." Yes.
Hmm. The most
Yes.
effective role.
These are
That is what
features.
that is what will make women most attractive to men is assisting as opposed to like you want balloons in your life. You don't want anchors. You don't want things that are going to
Mhm.
hold you back and make your life more miserable and more obnoxious. You want people that are going to lift you up and help you get the things that you want so you can ascend like the ascending man off to the moon, baby. Off to the moon like these crypto prices right now.
We got Mr. Angry Twinkie
Oh,
in the
snap.
chat as
Twinkie,
well
what's up, bro? Hell yeah.
for the algo gods.
Thanks
Thanks, man.
for the engagement, brother. We appreciate it. Twinkie's a good friend. We met him down in at the crypto mindset meetup down in Vegas. I'm not sure if you
Oh,
remember.
excellent.
But
I have
yes,
a hard
he was
time
there.
mixing names with handles and
Yes.
like uh,
Hmm.
Telegram handles versus Instagram handles, and
Hmm.
that was a
Well,
difficult
he
thing.
had introduced himself as Twinkie for that for the event, and so I recognized him from all the chats that we. That's for the folks at home. I spend more time in the cryptocurrency sphere, and Sam spends more time interacting with the things that are in his like immediate relevancy in life. So mostly having to do with building and leadership programs and things of that nature. So I'm like the computer and internet and communities and fake money stuff, and Sam's like the going out and getting after shaking babies or shaking hands and kissing babies and all that good stuff. So it's very yin and yang, like we were talking about earlier. This is a good functional brothership we have here. I love it. These are great
It
chat.
does seem
Start
that
my
way.
show and invite the two brothers over. Yes, so the Herc is also planning on starting his own show. So the Herc will be streaming, and I can't remember if he had set a timeline, but we were talking about this, I believe, on the DGen roundtable, either the Thanksgiving or the Christmas stream. Look, I do got a little bit of hard drive up there, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly. IIRC. Um, but yeah, we'll have to. I'm looking forward to coming on your channel, Mr. Herc, and chatting and talking about all the excellent things that are going on in your part of the world and your thoughts and feelings and whatnot. It'll be a good one for sure. What's next on the
Looking
docket,
forward
Sam?
to that.
Time for a hard transition or something. I think we've
Yes,
squeezed this sponge dry.
yeah, I do believe so. So how do you think you know cats fit into the wealth building principles?
What an excellent question. I like it. I did not see this coming. So, um, for those of you that are unfamiliar, Sam and I, well, I had a cat. He got eaten up by a mountain lion or something, and then Sam has a cat right now, and we both traveled a lot for a significant portion of the last year, and we're learning a lot about the principles of living on the road while also making tons of money and learning a lot of like life lessons. And so your question, like, how do cats fit into the world of like finances is I like to think of cats as a high efficiency um, of time invested versus reward extracted type of animal. So dogs, it is just, and I'm using dogs as the comparison, right? So dogs being the baseline and cats being the thing to aim for here. Dogs are fantastic. Dogs are loyal. Dogs are great. Dogs do a lot of excellent things. They will protect you. They'll bark at strangers. They'll give you licks and cuddles and all sorts of fancy and fun things. But dogs require a lot of maintenance and a lot of attention. And all that time that you're spending looking after dogs is time that you could be spending doing other things that will make you like level up in life faster. So I look at a lot of things in life as like a time investment. So like when I look at this drill right here, this oh that's cool how it like puts it in the
It's a
green
hex
screen.
drill.
Yeah, it's a hex drill. So it's just a fucking Ryobi, highest of qualities, right? When I look at things in life, whether it's a drill or a headset or like my phone case or a t-shirt or whatever, right? Like everything in life requires a certain amount of my time and my attention in order for it to like exist and stuff, right? Like I have to change the batteries on the drill. I have to use the drill to put screws into the wall. I have to wear the headset on my head and like plug it in and like go to the store and buy it and like eventually throw it away and yada yada yada. Everything that we have in life um, requires an amount of our time, an amount of our attention, which like takes away from our ability to use that for other things. So with cats, you get a high return of affection versus time invested. With dogs, you have to pay them a lot of time, you have to pay them a lot of attention, you have to do a lot of like maintenance with them. Cats just kind of do their own thing. They just exist on their own, and they'll be affectionate when they want to be, or they'll like hate you or whatever. But like they're cats are sovereign where dogs are dependent, if that makes sense. So dogs require like constant decision making process that takes away from your ability to spend your time making better decisions or doing better things. So like instead of like taking your dog on a walk, like you just let your cat out and then they'll come back when they feel like it, right? And you can spend that time like reading or studying something that's going to level you up. You can spend that time working out. You can spend your time doing things like your attention is freed up. It's kind of like the old ball and chain joke that men always make about getting married. Like when I get married, oh, the old ball and chain, it's dragging me down. Like when you adopt responsibilities and you adopt accountability and you gain authority over something else in life, or like at least you're intrinsically tied to the way that this thing functions and works, like you're sacrificing your free time, you're sacrificing your ability to do other things that could be leveling you up faster or whatever. So if you want to make a lot of money, right, like you need to invest your time wisely. And if you've got a dog it's going to require more of your time than if you've got a cat. Generally speaking, just like as a broad bell curve statement, right? So I'm of the opinion that cats are better because I enjoy my own attention not being invested on like dogs are awesome, and they'll do a lot of things for you, but dogs generally don't make you money, right? Like dogs can maybe help you get fit by like walking it all the time or whatever, but like the amount of energy and value invested in a dog versus the amount of like value that you get out of it, like a lot of it's like emotional and like neurochemical whatever the heck, versus like a cat where like you don't invest as much time but you still get like something out of it, and you're more free to do your own thing, right? Like I just think as a cat is a better like pragmatic investment, so to say, than a dog if you're trying to make money. And if you really want to make money, you just not have an animal, and then all of your time is free. Not
Mhm.
have an animal, not have a wife, not have a girlfriend, not have kids, not have anything that like takes your time away from the things that will give you maximum return. So it's
Dare
just
I
like
say, not have your testicles connected to your
exactly, yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
like the more things that you're attached to, the more things that you focus on, the less time you have to focus on, whatever you like, the more full the bucket, the less space there is to fill it with your own shit. So it's just kind of like that's my thoughts on cats and the efficacy of like wealth building and choosing an animal. So what an excellent question. I love that you threw that in there for me. Thank you, Sam.
And so like that can be adapted into like the differences in like a living situation, right? So we we were having a very similar living situation when we were both climbing towers,
Yep.
right? So you're living in a shipping container, or you're sleeping in the transformer building, or
Yep.
you are outside,
Or
or
in a box built on the back of one's truck.
or
That was
exactly,
awesome.
yes. If only the
We
truck
lived in
still
Sam's
moved.
we lived in Sam's truck for a good bit, and it was killer. It was just like set up hammocks at night, throw on like space heaters, cook from like a generator. What a cool lifestyle. I'm glad that we got to experience that together.
Me too. Next time I'll put oil in the engine, that way it keeps spinning. So,
So that car was a financial liability from the purposes of maintaining maintenance, in the respect of like it consumed a lot of gas, it consumed a lot of oil apparently,
it
but
sure
like it,
did.
it consumed a lot of resources. However, it provided us like a very like adaptable circumstance in which to live. And so like we had my truck, which was a bit smaller than Sam's truck, and we had his, which had the box in the living situation. So if we needed to go somewhere and do something that like didn't require like bringing our house with us, then we'd take like my truck. And if we were like traveling across the country, going from Vegas to LA, like to attend a Men of Action cool thing, then like we would take Sam's truck and my truck, so we could sleep in the one and have the backup of the other. And good thing we did, because like man,
Good thing.
what a like a serendipitous place to because it broke down like right on Interstate 15, the California Nevada border, where just like it's just this massive hill, and then just broke there. But it's a good thing
Nothing.
we were close enough to Vegas that we could get it towed in there, and everything turned out all right. But
Right.
man, man, what a story. So,
So that to
anyways,
say,
yeah.
now we have even more different living situations. So I'm coming at it from a different of approach,
Hmm.
right? So I I very much am trying to change my logistics because
Yeah.
I like Will said earlier in the stream, I like to operate at not that Will doesn't is not very productive with his time, but I
Hmm.
like to operate at like 105%
Hmm.
capacity. When my alarm goes off to wake up, I have 301 turn on Sami, 302 go start
Hmm.
this thing, 303 go do this. I got alarms. I've got this thing set up so
Yep.
that I'm already I woke up, boom, next thing, next thing, next thing. And I do the alarm so I don't have to think about it. I don't have to remember it, right? So, thank you for hitting the belly button and
Yep.
all.
Thanks, Nate. We appreciate it, bud.
Hopefully, there's no
Hell yeah.
copyright on that. Otherwise, we're getting in trouble.
He's our friend.
He's our friend. Right. So I operate on a different level. I like to think about how much can I squeeze out of my day, right? If I'm gonna sleep 8 hours and then maybe 2 hours of my day are gonna be maintenance for my
Hmm.
physical form, the body, the corporeal form that I have to maintain, you know, and there's going to be, let's say I've got to like live, right? Got to pay bills. So there's another 8 hours of the day that have to go to doing something that's productive, that's paying me to live. And I've got some amount of time left, right? So what was that? That was 8 plus 8 plus 2. It was 18.
Yep.
So that would make there 6 more hours of the day.
Yep.
So, how much can I suck out of that 6 hours? Am I commuting? And commuting can still be productive if you have to, right? So you can listen to audiobooks, you could do things like that, still be productive, but it's a limited productivity. I can't be, I shouldn't be emailing or texting clients. You can have phone calls with people, that's kind of cool, but you can't, like, I can't draw plans, I can't build a
Hmm.
house, I can't do lots of things while I'm driving. So I would like to remove as much of that from my day as possible. So, then the next thing is like, okay, time between tasks, time moving from point A to point B, right? If I drive to my gym, if I drive to work, if I drive to the grocery store, like, how do I condense all of these things so that I put everything together in little packages and squeeze out every second of my day that I can? So, like, that's how I like to
Yep.
operate. And so I've chosen to change my logistics from this tower box situation to being in an apartment, right? So I, the complex that I'm at has a little workout facility, uh, but and when you're traveling around the country, you got a gym membership that goes with you everywhere you go. You can shower, work out. You've got good utilities. So I've changed from that strategy over to this one where I have compressed everything into one space, and I want to bounce between different things, and so that allows me to do different things, and sort of connected to the cat, right? So I've got Mr. Pumpkin, and beforehand, Mr. Pumpkin, he's always with me. He's in the car because we're traveling around. We're all doing everything together, and now the situation's a little bit different. Logistics are a little bit different. Uh, Now it's like, okay, if I got to go do a job or something, I have, by changing my logistics, I have now sort of improved one of the cat logistical things. It's like he's got a house he can stay in. He's got food and water, and he's got a litter box. He's I'm not going to be concerned that, like, it's 110 degrees outside. Should my AC fail in the house, that would suck.
Yep.
But you're not thinking about the pet being in your car. You're not thinking about all these other things that have to function in order to do that, right? So by thinking about your logistics and your setup, you can approach your life in a very different way. Um, and so Will and I have chosen to, like, well, I have chosen to change my logistics from what we were doing,
Yep.
because I have a slightly different goal set, and I have different industry that I really want
Hmm.
to be a part of. So that's largely driving it, and I've got other, like, personal factors too. But we ought to think about how the logistical setup of our situation. One of the things that Michael Sartain frequently says is that one of the most underrated parts of male self improvement is logistics.
Yep. Yeah.
How do
I would
people,
hard
like,
agree with that.
yeah, like, are you setting yourself up to be in a good place to network, in a good place to meet people, in a good place to socialize, in a good place to work out? Like, are you setting up all these things you're trying to improve? Like, are you physically close to it? Right? Are you spending a whole bunch of time that you could be spending improving, driving around, just getting stuck in traffic, that kind of
Yep.
stuff? So I don't really remember where I was going with that, but it was from the subject of cats, and the cats got me thinking
Yeah.
about, you know,
Well, it's a good
apartments and
topic
things.
to cover. It's like, yeah, the where you live and how you get places is tricky. One of the things that like that was the case for a place that we lived for a while is like we were living inside of a facility that had like a security system, and part of like the general like good conduct of living inside this security system place is like you're not passing through the gate at like odd random hours of the night and like making the security guard wake up because there's movement on the camera, and now he has to go and like and check the logs and see if like people are coming and going when they should or shouldn't be, and like all these other things. So like there was a significant portion of our lives spent where we were in an area where like half of like 24 hour out of your 24-hour window, 12 of it has to be spent inside of an area, otherwise like you're being a bad tenant, you know. And so like that cut off a lot of ability for like going to the gym at set times, or like going out and grabbing groceries, and this, that, and the other thing. And it just kind of it was very limiting. And what freakonomics is, what Herc is talking about. I'm gonna have to look that up. That reminds me of Gendernomics, the book by shoot, what was the dude on Rule Zero back in the very beginning? I can't remember his name, but he wrote a book called Gendernomics. Anyways, all that to say that like logistics is incredibly important. And like it's definitely, logistics and factoring into like efficiency of time spent and things is very, very important.
Right.
So
I remember where I was sort of going with the apartment
yeah.
thing is you were talking about costs and time trade-offs, right? So one pet versus another, one logistical setup versus another. And one of the things you had said was, you know, the more things that you have and that you're responsible for,
Hmm.
the more time that's going to consume. And so one of the things I was going to talk about was like, okay, if you have an apartment, it's got a carpet, it's got a hard floor, it's got a bathroom, right? These are things that need to be maintained. So I am trading the time spent for the maintenance that I will do, like the minimal maintenance that I will do to maintain cleanliness in a space that I have for the time gained by being in the space. And theoretically, that's a positive trade off.
Hmm.
So, you would be thinking about like living in a shipping container doesn't have a whole lot of time requirements to cleaning and washing your shower and
Yeah.
stuff like that just because there's no shower in a shipping container. So the the time gains from and like some people would trade things for different things, right? So I happen to think that this is the most optimal thing I can do with my time because of how I know I can manage it, and so
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to choose to do. Um, but I think something that's like in terms of the wealth building topic, like some people are welcome, Mr. Chocolate Taint. Good to see
Oh,
you.
aloha to my good friend. Thought I smelled something gay. An interesting statement for a man so named Chocolate Taint. One might think that one would smell gay things all the time with a name like that, but who am I to talk shit on the internet?
Righto.
You were saying something though,
What was I
and I'm
saying?
I'm also looking up Freakonomics, which looks like a good book. Thank you, Herc. I appreciate that. I'm getting
It
it on
does.
Audible right now. But go ahead with your thing you were talking about, Sam. Before we were so kindly joined by our wonderful guests. Thank you guys for tuning in and checking
Thank
it
you
out.
guys for joining. Um, Man, I cut myself off. That was a mistake. I ran that train into the station and then
You
took
want me
its wheels
to
off.
go back in time and kind of listen to it? I could do that for you.
Oh
Go ahead
yeah,
and
I guess
talk
yeah,
about something while I'm doing that.
sure. So the living situation, being what it is, and people taint again, Jesus. Oh man, we're getting a little bit of aggressive in the chat here, guys. I love it. I love it. Mr. Angry Twinkie, your career is not your career. Your life is your career. One of the best things
You were
I
talking
did
about
was to
living in a
start
shipping
treating my
container.
life as my business.
Oh yeah, life is your career. Yep, there is
Yes.
there is no retirement. Something I say time and time again. There is no retirement. You're going to be doing something until the day you die. Um, so like whatever you're doing with your time, that is the contributions that you're making to the world and also the resources that you are consuming. So ideally, one would be contributing more than one is consuming, like to have like a some positive like lifespan in total. But like occasionally people will just like they'll work their 4 for 40, or their what is it, how does the phrase go? It's like you work your 40 for 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life, so that way you get like a shitty 401k 401k like pension bullshit, something that you're not even going to be able to survive on. And then social security goes bankrupt because it's a flawed system that's ran by idiots that don't care about you and spend your money in bad ways on different things. The thing that I had to cut off of that a little bit, Sam, you were talking about like the logistics of living in a shipping container and like having showers and the ability to like 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 you're focusing on the logistics of life. in the difference in the shipping container life versus the living in an apartment life. I'm not sure if
Mhm.
you had closed off your thought on that, but that's a snippet I got
I
from
remembered
when
my
I went back
thought,
in
but I
time.
wrote it down, so we can go back to it.
Okay, yeah, whenever you're ready.
Okay.
I'm gonna mute the
So
other.
yeah, so I was
Go ahead.
talking about like buying things, right?
Yeah.
So like this apartment, I've chosen to pay money to have this apartment versus not having one and just living in a shipping container, right? So the more things you buy, the more things you are responsible for, and very frequently it's going to require you to spend more money, right?
Yep.
So it's like, well, okay, I got an apartment, great. Well, now I got to pay utilities,
Hmm.
and now I got to like buy a broom. Now I got to
Hmm.
pay, like for Wi-Fi. Now I got to vacuum the, like it sucks more, right? So
You're trading things for other things.
right. And not only am I doing that, but in the process of doing so, in this in the typical consumerism problem, the more you consume, the more you have to consume
Yes,
because now you've bought something and like that's why man, if anybody wants
and
a,
spend.
a, a good and spend.
Yeah.
Yes. The more
When you buy a
or
house, you need a
nothing.
drill to install the doors. You need a wrench to fix the frozen pipes. You need
Mhm.
like toilet paper to put on the roll. You like when you buy a car, now you got to buy gas. You got to change the oil. You got to buy a new serpentine belt. You got to go see the mechanic. You got to get new tires. Like
Right.
yeah, the just extrapolating outwards. The more things you have, the more things you need to have.
And so the a good way to if you find yourself in the situation where like, oh, these guys are talking about wealth building and like not
Hmm.
being a consumerist and stuff. It's like, oh,
Yep.
geez, look at my monthly like cost of living and all these
Yep.
things that I'm paying for. Like,
Yep.
how do I fix this? Right. Well, a good way to do that is just start cutting stuff off. Right. That's hopefully not muscle, cut the fat. Right.
Hmm.
And you could very physically do this with the physical things that you have that you find that you're just like, oh, I have two coffee pots. Throw one away. Give it to a friend. Put it on Facebook if you want to deal with people that are silly, you
I
know?
have two coffee pots. Actually, I have three. I have
So
three coffee pots.
I was before I was rudely interrupted by the coffee pot man who's consumerist in his coffee pot lifestyle.
I'm the one living in a shipping container for fuck's sake. It's okay
uh,
though, because I can afford it. Ha ha. Ha ha
yes,
ha. I have
that's
enough. I
correct.
have so much. Bustling in so much money from like not spending anything on rent that I can afford to buy coffee pots. But what I can't afford to do is have a shower. So it's like it's this trade off. It's like Sam's got things that I don't got, and I've got things that Sam doesn't got. And this is where the yin yang whatever thing comes into play. But
So
anyways,
if I
enough of
ever
the
need
peanut
three
gallery.
cups of coffee at once, I'm
Yes,
going to Will
yes. Well, actually, yes, correct. You are.
because that
One of
would be
them's
the
still in
best
the
way to get
box.
three cups of coffee.
That is the most effective way to get 3 cups of coffee is to travel down to Cedar Hill, Texas, ring me up and say, "Hey, 3 cups of coffee, please." And then I'll say, "Who are you? And what are you doing over here?" And then I'll say,
How did you get the
"Okay,
gate code?
how'd you get the gate code?" Yeah.
So yeah, that was my thought was that you know, you got to be aware that if you're like super hyper focused on building this wealth, right? And you're only trying to purchase things that make your life easier
Hmm.
or um,
The
make you more
Sartain
money,
method.
the
Yeah.
Sartain method, right? Then like be
By
aware that
default.
every
Yeah.
every one of those things that you purchase, think about okay, when I buy this, not only am I going to buy it, but I'm now also going to spend this extra money too. Maybe it's recurring, maybe it's a one-time thing,
And time.
but like really
Attention.
think about everything is going. Yeah, Will is definitely more tan, but he does hang out in the sun more than I at this point. So,
Yin yang bros. I'm black and then white. Yeah, the running joke is that I'm quarter black Will.
oh, that's
Because
funny.
when did we when we originally used to stream, I did it from in my car that doesn't have the best lighting, and so it's very tan also in the summer, and so like my car is very like old fashioned roof lights. Made me look like I was a quarter black. So that was the running joke.
That
I
is funny.
actually had to send the DGen Roundtable a picture of my white as hell feet compared to like my tan calves in order. So I had to send feet pics. I should have started an OnlyFans when I did that. I had to send feet pics in order to prove that I am indeed a white guy, a white. What's our ancestry? We're French,
We're
German.
Nazis and we're Jews.
Yes, Nazis and Jews. From our ancestry, so that's kind of fun. And then on our other side of the family, we are like Irish and English. So we're just a little bit of everything European. But yeah, it's interesting how our grandparents did like the whole Romeo and Juliet thing. They both fled Germany after like one side of the family was in the German Navy and the other side was like German Jews. And then they found each other in America and just the
Fell in love.
Montagues and the Capulets. How romantic. But yeah,
Mr. Anky
some
Twinkie in here being totally correct. Total cost of ownership during
that.
the opportunity cost as part of that calculation, right?
Oh,
So
I like
now that
that.
I'm like paying for an apartment, I am losing the opportunity to live in a shipping container, right?
Hmm.
So that's a cost.
But you still have the opportunity, but it'll cost more.
That's true.
Yeah,
Some good
100%.
old economics right there.
Hmm. Yeah, fantastic. What's the next transition topic for us to?
I'm not sure. In fact, I just got a notification that we're having trouble streaming to YouTube. This may be an issue on YouTube's end. We'll keep
Uh-oh.
trying and let you know if it's resolved. Please check YouTube to ensure the stream looks okay.
It looks fine to me on my YouTube tab. We're a little bit. I'm not quite live, but we're doing well, as far as I can tell.
Okay.
For watching started 2 hours ago. Oh, look at
Oh,
us! We
Mr.
reached the
Anky
2 hour
Twinkie,
mark.
we
We
still
made
see
it.
you. We made it. 2 hours.
Yeah.
How
2
much
hours.
time of productivity of all you guys in the chat can we suck away that you could be
Oh, geez.
studying your coins?
Let's have a lesson about phrasing here and not talking about on the Somebody's gonna clip that, and then we're gonna no, they're probably not because that would take too much effort. And people are all about ideas and not about actually doing things. So I think we're safe. And by me saying this, I'm inevitably tricking one of you guys into creating a clip. So, ha 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 ha. I win in both scenarios. Either I
And
don't
the
get to be
ascending
mocked on the
man,
internet, or I'm in charge of you. So
thinks we look good too, so that's a compliment.
excellent. I'm sure
We
he's
won't
talking
combine
about
that.
our stunning good looks. That's got to be what it's about.
Well, I don't know what else could be talked about,
Yeah,
but
for sure. It's the only
yeah.
thing. The only thing.
Oh
Well,
man.
since we are running out of things to talk about, are we looking to wrap here,
Yeah.
or what's your plan? Because I'm a free agent. I'm ready to rock and roll. However long you want to do this thing. I do have to build some stairs, but like I can do that
You can do
in
that.
any amount of time.
Well, I do have to network around this area so that I can,
Yes, you do.
afford to keep this apartment. So
Yes.
I am going to end this one. We just wanted to
Those
kind of pop in,
jingles.
little surprise stream, and
Yeah.
put something together since it's been a little dry on the internet
On the phone
on our
at
channel.
noon, said, "Let's do a stream. When should we do it?" Oh, 12:30. All right, here we go. And here we are.
And here we are. So we're gonna pop off. I'm going to touch base with the guest from the next podcast, and we'll see if we can set that up within the month. And otherwise, thank all of you guys for coming in the chat. We had the Ascending Man, Mr. Angry Twinkie. We had the Herc. We got Chocolate Taint. And did I miss anyone?
All
I
these
think that
fine and
was it.
fantastic gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm sensing a common theme here.
Yes, yes, me as well. Thank you guys for hopping in. Before we hop off, let's take care of some housekeeping. Sam, where can the people find you other than this fantastic Brothers Two of Them podcast? Where can people find you and see what you're doing, see what you're up to, and if they want to follow your lifestyle and see what you have to offer the world?
Yes, sir. So I have a few things going. I've got the Samuel Stevenson podcast, which is aimed at just some interesting conversations with different people from different places around the world, asking questions about different areas of life that we just might not know about. I've got Bungalows for Bachelors. If you are someone who finds yourself either wanting to know more about construction, residential construction, if like, you're a money making man and you're like, I'm going to get into some real estate, but I don't know nothing about houses. Well, it's like, come check out Bungalows for Bachelors because we teach about houses.
You
If
teach
you
the
like,
entire process. I want to say
oh, the
that's
whole
important
thing.
too. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so if you wanna know about, like, home building, I have a home building program that is a prerecorded set of classes that talks about all the phases of construction that a house will go through in most cases. And I've got specifically, in addition to that, a framing design program. So if you want to know more about like, oh, well, why is my ceiling not falling on my head? Like, what's up there? What's in the attic? What's below me? All that stuff. I got that program too. And every week we got a Zoom call where we basically just hop on, and it's a little bit of a community right now. We share stories, talk about construction efforts. I got a few guys in it that are going through their own projects and have different goals and things. But yeah, man, if you're someone that wants to learn about uh, homes and how we do things here in America, then that is a great place to go. And you don't necessarily have to be someone who's going to go build a deck in your backyard. But man, if you find that it's in your male improvement journey, if you want to be the man who can fix your sink at the house or can build a shed in the backyard, then that is the place to go, because I've consolidated it all into quick and easy. And the Zoom calls are for you can just pop on, ask me some questions if you want, make it super quick and easy. I
I,
also consult out of it. What's up?
I was going to say, like, I was just going to help you pitch this here. Like, the you can find all this information on the internet for free, or you can pay a very low price of, what is it, $10 a month, I think.
$10 a month.
Yeah, $10 a month, and you could have access to all of this knowledge consolidated into one place. You had mentioned it, but you didn't really touch on it. Like, all the stuff that Sam knows, it's all public information. But like, you could either spend your time to go and find it yourself, or you can go to the source, right? So it's essentially just incredibly efficiently priced coaching and mentoring. So that's the thing that I wanted to double tap on there. But you're now talking about your like your paid consulting work that you do. So go ahead and
Yeah, so I will
tap
also consult out of it as well. I mean, if you're someone who's got specific projects going on and you just want more one-on-one time, I also do that. But if you need a partnering company with that is Stevenson Integrated Designs. That is the company I use to draw plans. So I am a residential designer, is what you would call it. You can think of it like an architect, but I just don't have an architect's license. But you basically, if you want a house plan, then you can get some plans to get a custom home, get something modified, you name it. That is something else that I do. That's more of my bread and butter, pay my bills thing. They go very much hand in hand, because in order to build any project, you got to be able to draw it, because to define it, right? So I got that going on, and let me see, podcast, Bungalows for Bachelors, Stevenson Integrated Designs. That's pretty much it. Occasionally, I show up in other places. If you want to see me show up and talk about more controversial red pill topic type things, I occasionally will go on Elena's bar community and talk about some crazy stuff on there. And that's where you can find me. What about you, Will? Where can people find you?
So people can find everything that I'm doing and have done at Linktree /Will Stevenson. That's linktr.ee/Will Stevenson with a V as in Victor. You can find all my socials there if you want to, stalk me on Facebook or read about my silly thoughts that I have, or watch me get in discussions with family members or friends or whatever. You can find me on Facebook there, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram. You can see my body of work there. Some of the things that I've created, some of my Excel spreadsheets that I've made public, whether it's a hex meetup template, whether it's the Rule Zero website that I started as an Excel spreadsheet, hired a developer to build me a website for, and then just kind of like let it fly from there. Or if it's the DGen Roundtable podcast, right? So like I'm part of a cryptocurrency community, which it looks like most of the folks in the chat are from the DGen Roundtable. So thanks guys for coming in and supporting me and my brother's podcast here. We appreciate it. But if you're not part of the DGen Roundtable and you're catching this show on the replay, then I would highly encourage you to join the DGen Roundtable either through the link in my link tree or by going up to your URL bar at the top of your web browser and typing in bit.ly/degenerate underscore roundtable. and that will take you straight to the DGen Roundtable Telegram. It will redirect you, and you can join our little group there where we talk about cryptocurrency. We talk about things that are happening right now. We talk about strategies. We talk about onboarding. We talk about like all of the information. There is a slew of quality info in there and a whole bunch of smart folks like OGs in the cryptocurrency space. We've got guys in there who were like original Bitcoiners back in like 2010, 2011. We've got dudes that are building stuff on Pulse Chain. We've got all sorts of people, beginners, middle range folks, dudes that are incredibly wise, all sorts of stuff. So if you want to learn more about cryptocurrency via immersion in a community, then come join the DGen Roundtable. Again, that's bit.ly/degenerate_roundtable. And yeah, so that's where you can find me, linktree/Will Stevenson, and the DGen Roundtable, which is one of my favorite projects. Some things that you can look forward to seeing from me in the near future is I am working on creating a what would you call it, like an online course for the fundamentals of marksmanship. So I'm going to be teaching how to go from 0 to 1 in terms of the fundamentals of marksmanship with a pistol and also with a rifle. So my focus will be more on semi-automatic rifles, but you can apply the fundamentals to shotgun and bolt action and lever guns and just long weapons and short weapons of any caliber. The fundamentals stay the same, and then so that's going to be a series of videos and potentially like online subscription stuff. I haven't quite ironed out all the details, but I will be providing teaching in the world of marksmanship and weapons handling. So that's something that I'm going to be building in the future. I don't have anything other than the general idea and the actual coursework so far, but that's something I'm working on. I'm also working on a system for cryptocurrency aficionados, specifically Hexicans, to meet each other. And that's my Hex meetup template. It's essentially just another Excel spreadsheet with people and their locations in the world and how you can contact them. And the thing that they all have in common is that like we're all Hexicans, we're all cryptocurrency bros. So if you're a Hexican and you want to meet other Hexicans, or if you're not a Hexican and you want to learn and you want to like have real life IRL meetups with people that know things and are down to meet other people as well, then you can go to bit.ly/hex_meetup_template, and you can view. I think I've got like a list of 20 people in there so far. Lots of folks in the States, a couple folks down under over in like New Zealand and Australia, and I think we got a dude over in Europe in the London area. So there's people all over the world that are Hexicans that know about the Richard Heart ecosystem and are down to meet with other folks of like-minded cryptocurrency ideals and things. So that's it for me. Find my socials, join the DGen Roundtable. I'm making a shooting thing, and go meet some other people in real life. That's my spiel, and that's all I got, Mr. Sam. And I want to thank all the audience again for joining us and listening. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button and all. And I guess we'll see you guys next time, whenever that might be.
Yes, indeed, we will. And you've actually reminded me to do something that I didn't do the first time, which is
Oh
give
yeah.
you a link.
Oh
So
yes.
if you want to find me, you can at samuel.d.stevenson on Instagram. That's my personal Instagram. If you want to check out Bungalows for Bachelors, that would be at BFB Success. And if you want to go to the school server where I have all of my courses and my community, then you would just go to www.school with a K, SKOOL.com/BFB Success there.
Why don't you go ahead and
That
drop
said,
those links in the current chat, and then also when we're done with this, we can add them post to the description of the video. So
that's a good
you
idea.
guys that are watching live, you can click on them right now, and you guys that are watching later, just look in the description, and there it will be.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
So we're
Also,
going
can
to
you
do
drop
that.
my
Oop,
my link tree? So my link tree has all the links for the Hex Meetup and the DGen Roundtable and all the other stuff as well. So if you're looking for
yep,
stuff, that's where you can find it.
dropping that again.
Hmm.
I'm
So
presuming
yeah,
that's the right link tree.
while he is doing that, I'm just going to again, because we don't like dead airspace, we don't like dead sound. So whilst Sam is taking care of that, because I'm not a moderator, I want to thank everyone for listening, and we encourage you guys to join us next time, whenever that might be. We're going to be interviewing a lady from down under, the great continent of Australia, and we're going to be talking about male female dynamics, and just having hopefully a generally positive conversation. I've not spoken with her directly, but Sam has, and she seems like a reasonable person who is down to talk, and she might differ in ideas with us, but I'm quite sure that we're going to have a positive human interaction, and hopefully we all learn something from this experience, and provide you guys a little bit of value and a little bit of entertainment as well. So that's coming up in the near future.
Sounds
So
good.
I don't know if it's date to be determined or what the scenario is, but I know that we've had to shift it a few times now. So we will see when we see, and we'll put it out on this channel so you guys can look there. Other than that, go ahead and do your
Thanks for
thing, Sam.
watching. We're killing it. Killing the stream.